Next, we will move into a presentation that hopes to orient you to the Sawkill Watershed, which will then flow directly into the following talk, and you'll see why in a moment. To begin this segment, I would like to introduce a very important WLC collaborator, one of our water confab participants, and someone who has personally been mentoring me for the past year, Beth Reichheld. Beth wrote and was awarded not one, but 2 brilliant grants, along with the town of Woodstock, to benefit the Sawkill Creek. First, the Habitat Rehabilitation and Enhancement Project grant, and the following year, in 2002, an NYS DEC Hudson River Estuary Program grant, the Sawkill Watershed Stewardship and Education Project. Beth was the co-founder and director of the NYC DEP Water Supply Stream Management Program, a role she held and continued to develop for 30 years, working closely with soil and water conservation district agencies, as well as community members, featuring an ecosystem-based approach to managing rivers and floodplains in the Catskills. This NYC Water Supply Watershed Program is recognized internationally as a leader in this approach to stewarding one's drinking water watershed. This is the basis for NYC DEP's ability to meet the EPA's filtration avoidance determination for these many decades. Beth will be defining the concept of a watershed and overviewing the Sawkill and Woodstock. Please welcome Beth Reichheld.
All right. Thanks, Miranda. That was a lot. I just want to start off by just saying that, I just left my position about a year ago from New York City DEP, and I'm so enjoying working in the Sawkill Watershed with the Land Conservancy and all the people. Miranda, it's just been amazing. Mary, Candace, I can't even tell you how it's just thrilling. It's thrilling to work in your own watershed, in your own home neighborhood. It's just the best. So with that, the goal of my talk today is I have a couple goals. One is to take you on a journey down the Sawkill. I mean, a lot of us live here and understand, for example, that, really, if you start up at Mink Hollow, which isn't in the Sawkill watershed, but it is connected to it, as I'll define in a moment, and you drive down to Bearsville, and then you go through town, and you take Xena Sawkill Road down to Kingston, you've toured the Sawkill watershed. That's not necessarily are right next to the stream the whole way. You might not necessarily get to know it. And so my goal today is to simply thread together all of the different locations. I'm not going to make it a heavy science talk, hopefully. And Joel Du Bois, who's going to be speaking after me, maybe can hit the science a little harder than me. I'm going to enjoy not doing that. Okay, so let's see. Next, Miranda. First, I just want to orient everybody to the bigger watershed. The Sawkill watershed's in pink, and that's a nod to Jen, our artist director. That Sawkill is a part of a watershed that, if you follow the laser, this is the whole entire Esopus Creek watershed that drains to the Hudson right there. And anyway, this tan part drains west. The Beaver Kill, which is actually where I live, it goes all the way the Esopus Creek down to the Ashokan. But these 3 watersheds all drain in that direction. So we're focusing on the Sawkill today. Next. So I guess Miranda just said that I was going to define a watershed. A watershed it's an area of land that drains to a stream. That's the simplest definition that I can convey. I think we'll have a really good grasp on it through the afternoon. So the Sawkill watershed begins here. Steep headwaters, really steep. Steep headwaters come down, and Cooper Lake brings water from here, from the Beaver Kill. And then I'm just tracing the river for you before we launch in. This is Xena Sawkill Road as you go down through the 3 towns, town of Woodstock, town of Kingston, town of Ulster, are the 3 towns that make up the Sawkill watershed, or have parts of their town boundaries are within the Sawkill watershed. And so next slide. Thank you. So this is Echo Lake. This is the headwaters. If you hike up to the top of Overlook and then you follow the DEC trail to Echo Lake, you are at the headwaters. It's draining Overlook Mountain, Twin, Indian Head are all draining into Echo Lake, and that begins the Sawkill River. Okay, next. Headwaters. It's my hope that maybe some people here might be interested in hiking up to the Sawkill headwaters. I've never actually been there. I want to give a nod to Jake Wiedemeyer and the Ulster County Soil and Water Conservation District. They mapped the headwaters back in 2000, 2001. Yes, right on, Mary, yes. Thank you, Jake. Yes. And so we actually have an incredible report, incredible appendix of photographs that document the condition of the various sites. They found, these are, in this parlance of stream scientists, they call these woody debris jams. I'm trying to just call them log and gravel jams because there's nothing debris about them. But anyway, if you hear that term, you'll understand. Log and gravel jam equals woody debris jam. And the headwaters are in this area in the steepest of slopes is geologically unstable. We should have a whole separate talk on that. It's very interesting, geologic history and how that affects our water quality, how it affects our streams. Next. Keefe Hollow is, near Hutchin Hill Road is draining the Sawkill. This is an example of the unstable geology I'm talking about. It has to do with the glacial history and the particular sediment makeup of it. And you'll notice, who here notices that the Sawkill runs red or brown, muddy after a storm event? Okay, that's owing to the particular geologic history in which we live. Okay, next. I want to just take a quick, so I told you that this is the natural headwaters of the Sawkill. Now I want to pop over and just talk about the Cooper Lake diversion for a moment. Next. This is the Beaverkill watershed that flows west to Shandaken and then to the Ashokan Reservoir. This is Cooper Lake. The Mink Hollow, this is the diversion. There's an aqueduct that runs under Mink Hollow Road and comes in right about over here in Cooper Lake. You can see it when there's a drought. A drought is a good time to go see where the water bubbles up into Cooper Lake. And then there's a Cooper Lake tributary. That's the outlet of the dam for Cooper Lake. Next slide. This is the Cooper Lake tributary running along 212 for those who recognize it. Also want to acknowledge that up on the hill slopes up in here is where the Church Road is and the Shady Dump. Okay. Coming down, that Cooper Lake tributary confluences with the Sawkill here at the Route 212 bridge that crosses over the Sawkill, which is near Glasgow Turnpike. You can see it flowing well here. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that was the headwaters. So we have a lot of woody debris jams, a lot of failing hill slopes. I don't think I said, but Jake and the Ulster team found something like 30 wood jams, and they found, I think, 64 highly eroded banks and hill slope failures. So it's a very unstable, and that's why we're going to be having that muddy water. It's kind of untreatable. It's in a very, very difficult place to reach. So, but now we're going to be transitioning to another part of the river, what is more of a transitional reach and a more active hands-on management of the river by the communities and of course the town. Next. So I want to introduce the concept of channelization. We're in Bearsville. I'm standing on the bridge in Bearsville. This shot is upstream. The highway department's right up here, and it's flowing well. This is very steep. Okay, I don't want to go into too much about that. This is just a location for you to see Cub Markets right here across the street. This is the what is now the Bear Cantina, and of course the the centerpiece of music, if I may, in Woodstock with the Bearsville Theater. And what we're looking at here is a channelized stream. And if you think about this, you need to think about like the fact that those headwaters are delivering a massive amount of sediment of all sizes, not just like small fractions, but like huge boulders. And anyway, you saw the pictures. Delivering all that sediment and all the wood down through these reaches of the Sawkill. And in 1950, this is Marco Grove way down here. In 1950, there was a very big flood, and the Sawkill flooded. And if you walk around back there, down out behind the Bearsville Theater, you can see all sorts of historic flood channels through the floodplain. There's a group there building a trail there now. I don't know much about it, but it is a great place to explore. But this channelized reach is it's a not natural shape for a river in this given slope and setting. However, it does work. But there was a construction of a huge berm here. I believe that was Ulster Soil and Water, Jake, that did that. There's a really big berm down there that retains this river in this shape so that it moves the sediment and wood past the Bearsville complex and prevents a flood event of that same scale. This might be handled a little differently in modern times, but in 1950, that was how it was done. Next slide.
I think it was the Army Corps that did that.
Okay, that that is kind of their bread and butter.
Yeah.
Thanks. So this is that straight channelized reach, and it comes down into Bearsville. I don't know if you guys, so these are, let me just give you some anchor points. This is the Yeary Hill Bridge. So we've got Dixon, this is the Rick Foltz Field. We've got Dixon, we've got, Yeary, and then Overlook Drive, and we've got, this is Marco Grove, and these are our wells. There's 2 wells here, there's 7 wells here. And look at how the water is flowing, all that sediment I told you about, look at this. This is the first opportunity. This area is super flat, as people may know. Super flat, the sediment, the wood falls out. It's the first opportunity, and think about the tremendous amount. So next slide. These are photos that were taken back in the early 2000s of the sediment and gravel that had accumulated over many, many years behind in the stream channel that I showed you. So next slide. That's Yeary Hill Bridge. And now we're looking on the other side. There was a log and gravel jam there that was easily 600 or 800 feet in length, maybe even 1,000. It went almost all the way down to the Como. And it blocked the Sawkill and made it cut and create a whole entirely new channel. And actually, so with those grants that Miranda mentioned, and with Ulster Soil and Water's help and the town of Woodstock's help, this was back in the day of Jeremy Wilbur, Billy Harder. Town contributed, I think, $10,000. We got a state grant and hired a river restoration consultant, MMI, who did a design, and they together cleared this jam and used a lot of the wood and gravel right on site as part of the restoration project by filling in all sorts of channels that were threatening homes on both sides of the river. Importantly, this gravel jam also is something that can potentially impact the town wells, and that was the impetus for clearing it, was to protect the town wells because of the way that river dynamics work and the structure and function of river ecosystems. These areas, they accumulate, they build up, they grade, and they spread out, and they divert the river. And it was threatening the well-vegetated land that was protecting our wells. So that was the impetus for the project, and it was a successful project at the time. Next slide. So I'm going to jump now down to the Como because I don't want to use up too much time. Looking upstream at the Como, this was in October. I was with Mary McNamara and Jen Zackin. This bluff is eroding. That's that point that everybody loves. There's a bench up there now. And some erosion on the stream bank. I'm just simply pointing out, I guess I wanted to acknowledge Jim Hansen's work with the geysers and clearing excessive wood that was accumulated and diverting the water into the banks, and just looking forward to paying more attention to the Como with this project. Next slide. I just wanted to simply hear from here. So here's the Como, and then we've got the village. And I just want to, so we're going to go down through this section right now. Next slide. The Sawkill over here, do you recall that this retaining wall being built several years ago? And Woodstock Way, so Tannery Brook, Sawkill. I think of these as just all of, I don't know, Woodstock reminds me of Europe in the sense that it's such a tapestry. The village and the streams are so tight-knit with our laid up stone walls, and it's a beautiful thing. And next slide. Okay, jumping, the golf course. Just to point out, retaining wall, log cribbing on this side. This is a natural bedrock protection. It's got a very thin, what's called a riparian buffer, which is a vegetated buffer. It's very important to protect the water quality of a stream to have a thick and abundant riparian buffer. So it's just something to be aware of, just pointing it out. But this is a very scenic place in Woodstock. We get a lot of nice views from here. Next. Big Deep. Jen and Mary and I visited all these sites. This is obviously not in October when we were there, but I have to say the Big Deep looked like it needed some love when we were there. There's a lot of garbage, car impacts. Anyway, look forward to working with the community to restore it. Okay, next. And then, and there's a trail. I don't even know if it's legal to walk on, but there's a trail that you can walk down to Kingston Reservoir too. And wow. So this is the Kingston Reservoir 2 dam. And it impounds the river. Dams have serious ecological implications for rivers. One of the biggest ones is that it traps sediment, and this is behind the dam. So if you just were to be up there above it, this is what it looks like. And it is trapping a lot of the fine sediment, a lot of the large sediment. It's going to continue to grow in its size as a wetland. It's considered water that comes over a dam after having a chance to deposit a lot of its sediment is just considered more erosive. The term is called sediment hungry. And so I want to go to the next slide and just point out this is Little Deep right below the dam. And I just encourage you guys to go check it out, above and below. Just observe the differences. Much clearer, smaller flows, obviously much less flow than above because the water's being detained above. And then, of course, it runs right down to the Xena cornfield. So I just want to encourage everybody to, back on this side of the cornfield, the Land Conservancy has a wonderful riparian buffer planting project on a tributary called the Fontaine Kill, and lend a hand. Okay, next slide. So now we're going to turn south, Xena Sawkill Road, and I'm going to hit this all really fast. Slide. Thorn Preserve. We love the Thorn Preserve, and Joel will probably speak to this, but this is the bridge looking upstream. With Ulster Soil and Water's help and the town of Woodstock, a lot of sediment and gravel was removed here that was causing backwater flooding and threatening flooding the road and homes. Something like that can be done, but it has to be done under supervision and with the guidance of a local soil and water conservation district who are skilled and trained in these matters. Next. And Xena Reservoir, of course, this is one of all of our favorite places, I'm sure. City of Kingston. It's a big presence in our watershed. I see it actually a lot up on Cooper Lake, but they have a big presence. They have a city to provide water to. Next. I wanted to acknowledge the just really incredible efforts of the Environmental Commission here in Woodstock for designating this area as a critical environmental area so that any kind of development project is held to more rigorous standards and review process. And that the Xena development is right up in this area. And this is, you got to look for this turn if you don't know where it is, because it's so beautiful. This is all bedrock and turns like 90 degrees. It's beautiful. Next, Sweet Meadows. This is town of Kingston now. We're getting much closer down to the Esopus. Sweet Meadows is fascinating. This is channelized, and the homes are over here, and yet this side of the stream bank is about 5 feet lower than that stream bank, which puts this community at risk of flooding. Sweet Meadows has had flooding problems, not just because of that, but because this is a bridge downstream. It's the Powder Mill Bridge, And this view actually is looking downstream, but it has the effect, the water, think about, this is a 42 square mile drainage area to this watershed coming from those mountains, our mountains, and it's surging all that water through this little opening, and bridges that are not sized to pass flood events backwater, and they cause backwater flooding and scouring, and it can be a huge problem. And that was part of the problem that Sweet Meadows was facing. I understand that it's better now, but I'm not going to go into that right now. And then we're going to move downstream, town of Kingston. We've all probably driven by this area. This is a beautiful bedrock bed to this river at this point. And now it's going to turn next, Miranda, and confluence with the Esopus Creek in the town of Ulster. I just want to point out 87 right here. You can see the truck. This area also has backwater flooding problems. And the backwater flooding is actually not from a bridge, it's from the Hudson River itself. When the Hudson is in flood stage, the Sawkill can't outlet into the Hudson. So it backwaters in this area, and it can be quite problematic. So that's an ongoing problem that the town of Ulster is dealing with. So this is, somewhere down there is where it's going to confluence into the Esopus, and then head to the Hudson River, and then head to the Atlantic Ocean. So that's it. This summer, others have mentioned this, but I just want to emphasize it. We've partnered with Mark Vian, a river ecologist, and Telly Olson, who's a fluvial geomorphologist, which is a geomorphologist related to rivers, to make a team of stream stewards, people who will who have classroom training and then also walk the river, study the river, learn to read it, and really become literate in stream process and structure and function of stream ecosystems. So if you're interested in being one of those stream stewards, you could sign up in the back. And then also just that we will be having walking tours and some driving tours to just jump down to some of these sites, get out, walk around, talk about it this summer. And so we'll be reaching back out to all of you when those times come. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Beth. Please sign up if you're interested in that Stream Stewards program. If you look behind you, Jen is in the back at the table. Right in front of her is where you can join that mailing list. It's not a commitment yet, but it is an invitation to hear more as we learn more.